So yes, it's open. Could it get more involved in bloodier? Yeah, it probably will. But we don't know if the Russians have the ability to throw that much more force into one big attack more than what they've done, which is scatter attacks up and down the line. On the whole, though, you're right in the sense that while they've attacked these things, particularly rail, they don't seem to have done it too effectively until today. And you would, to begin with, the argument, which is probably right, is they just didn't think the Ukrainians would hold them back that long, and therefore they didn't want to destroy the rail network because they thought they would seize it and use it. What's been more interesting is when the war changed from a war of taking over all of Ukraine to seizing parts in the east and south. Why then have they been quite slow? And it does seem to be the Russian military is simply not that efficient. It doesn't have the ability to carry through the kind of complex operations that most Western analysts who talked about the Russian military said they can do. So they couldn't do what people were saying they could do. Well, what we are now is in the second Russian strategy. The first Russian strategy was one of the worst strategies in military history. It was a really poorly planned operation based on a wildly optimistic assumption of your own abilities and a wildly underestimate of your opponent. And they spread troops around. It went really poorly. They were knocked back in the Battle of Kiev. The United States now believes Ukraine can win. And what the idea on February 24th was hope parts of Ukraine hold out. That was sort of and therefore they were quite limited in what they would send to Ukraine. What was very interesting about Secretary Austin's talk today was he used the phrase winning the war, helping Ukraine win the war. So they are now committing to Ukraine to help Ukraine in far more advanced ways because they believe Ukraine can win the war. And that's the difference. It went from one where they thought really they'd have to hold on, maybe fight a guerrilla war, to now they believe they can do a lot of damage to Russia and maybe force a peace settlement on Ukraine's terms as much as Russia's terms. So a Russian general can say whatever a Russian general wants. I can say I want to lose 20 pounds by next week. That doesn't mean that's going to happen. So I don't think we should put a lot of credence into saying what a Russian general wants. Let's see how the two militaries continue to perform. And it's not happening because we seem to be in a different phase. And this is a phase of attrition. The two sides are sort of every day weakening each other. So it's a question of, what can you bring in that's new, but what can you destroy on the other side? So it's this process of reinforcement and attriting out. At some point, that will end when one side basically gets too weak. And then we'll see gaps in the line. But so until one side it gets too weakened by attrition, we're probably not going to see massive changes in the line. Might be a village here or a village there, but we're not going to see these sort of blitzkrieg type operations that people were perhaps assuming. Now, once one side gets too weak, that will change. So I think we're in this more static, slow-moving attritional phase. But then when that ends, that can end very quickly. It's not like it's not just like flipping a switch, but at some point the other side will just get too weak, and then it will have problems. And then you might see more movement. I think there's only one question, and we'll know the answer soon. Will Russia commit to fighting a long war? Right now, they're not. They're really fighting with the army they went into Ukraine with on February 24th, backed up by mercenaries and backed up by a few extra units. But basically, they've gone in with the same force with extra add-ons. If they're going to commit to a long-term fight in Ukraine, they will have to raise and train a new army. It won't be this army. It needs to be a regenerated force, and that will require conscripts. And they seem to want, and this has been a problem with the Russian strategy throughout, they know what they want, but they just assume they're going to get it.